Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We're all about prophecy, end times news, and hearing God's voice. And I'm glad that you've clicked on this video once again. I want to share a prophetic word today that I feel is on God's heart and applies to someone out there that needs to hear it. And the word is quite simple. It's just that God is saying go. It's time to go. You know, I had that word last year, literally this time last year. I actually heard God say go so many times, and he was saying go into the ministry. I'd been waiting a long time to serve God, but this time last year, God said, leave your business and serve me. And you know what? It wasn't an easy decision, but I did it by faith. And let me tell you, a year has passed and God has supernaturally provided. He has been with me on this journey, and it's been exciting. It's been an adventure, and he hasn't let me down. And listen, if God is telling you to go in some area of your life, in some way, in some kind of ministry, he's going to go with you. He's going to provide for you. He's going to make a way. It might not be that you should leave your job, but it might mean that you need to step into something new, into something that you've been thinking about for a long time, but haven't had the courage to step into up till now. But God is saying go. Now is the time to go. And I believe that call is upon us again. A year later, I feel God saying go now into the harvest field like never before. This past year, I feel like he's called me into online ministry, and that's why I've connected with so many of you guys, and you've seen the videos that I've posted. But now it's time to go into the harvest field, into where people are at. To physically preach the gospel and draw in the lost, and to build the kingdom for his name. And there's three ways that I feel that God is calling you to go today. Number one, he's calling you to move geographically. This is applicable for certain people. God is saying relocate. It's time to move on. It's time to move house. It's time even to move country or city. God has got something prepared for you somewhere over the other side. It might be right across the other side of the world. But God is saying, will you be brave enough to take that step and trust me? We've got friends that are planning even this year to move to the other side of the world. And we've known other people that have done it and that are in process of it. And you might be in that category. God might be saying, move geographically to another town. Just move, 100 miles into the next city. But God is saying, move. To a lot of us, don't be afraid, but take steps towards it. Number two, I believe God's saying to go in relationships. I think throughout my life, and I think of the relationships I've had, friendships, and a lot of them have been for a season. They've been for a reason and for a season. And then God said, okay, it's time to move now. It's time to move on and move into a new thing that I'm doing. Because you see, not everyone can go with you on the journey that God's taken you on. Not everyone understands what God is doing inside of you. Not everyone can grasp what he's called you to. That's why 2 million of the Israelites didn't go into the promised land, but their sons and daughters did. It's because they couldn't get their heads around it. They couldn't change their mindset that they'd accumulated, that they'd formulated in Egypt. And God is saying, I'm calling you into something new, and it's probably going to involve new people as well. And guys, don't be afraid to leave a relationship, to leave a friendship that you've had for many years. But give it to God. And if you're meant to stay with that person or carry on in that friendship, as you lay it down, God will give you it back. But, some people are just going into a different time, into a different season. And I think of Abraham and Lot. They went into the promises of God together, but then Lot went another path and Abraham went into his call. And I think of Naomi and Ruth and the other woman, I can't think of her name right now, but Naomi's daughter-in-law. And, Naomi said, I'm going back to Bethlehem to seek God, to seek a fresh start, to see what he can do for me there. And only Ruth went with Naomi. The other woman stayed behind. Some people will stay with us, others won't. And then there was Paul and Barnabas, and they pioneered one of the greatest missionary enterprises, works of that time. They did so much. They built so many churches and reached so many lost people. And yet there came a time where Paul was going into a new season and chapter of his life, and Barnabas wasn't. He was going into something different. And it's not a wrong thing, it's just a timing thing. And so don't be afraid of that. And number 3, ministerially, God is calling a lot of you into a new work, into a new venture, into a new ministry, into a new outreach. And now is the time to make steps towards that. If it's been on hold because of COVID, now is the time to start getting those papers out, applying to those different groups or organizations or bodies. Start putting wheels on the vehicle that God's calling you into. Start making steps, whatever it takes, whatever you need to do, but start going, because God has called you to something great. And it doesn't have to be a worldwide ministry. It could just be reaching your neighborhood with God's love through baking cakes, through some kind of practical demonstration of love and outreach. And that's the 3 things, guys. But the thing is, we need to be moving. We need to be moving. God can't direct a stationary car. Sometimes he says, wait until I tell you. But when he says go, you need to move. And it might be daunting, it might be frightening, but God will direct your paths. You might think, where do I go? And God will show you the way to go. That's why the Bible says, whenever you go to the right or to the left, you'll hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. It's not when we're just sitting still doing nothing, waiting for it all to happen. It's when we're actually active and taking steps towards it. And guys, don't look at the circumstances. Don't think it's a global pandemic. We're still in the tail end of it. You know, the circumstances might never be right for you. And when God called me into this ministry, we went into this global pandemic. If I'd known what was coming, I might have hesitated. I might have been fearful. But God knew that in his grace and in his foresight. He knew that, he knew what I needed and what I needed to do at the time. And God is saying, trust me, I've got it mapped out. He knows the way that we should take, and he'll lead us in the way everlasting. He leads us on straight and narrow paths towards his will, towards his kingdom, towards his purposes. And we can trust in that. His word is a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. Get into the word. Ask him for direction. I haven't just had one word saying go. I've had multiple words saying go, go, go. Now is the time. And guys, if you haven't got it all mapped out, don't worry. Most of the great people in Hebrews 11 in the Hall of Fame, they didn't have it all mapped out and worked out. They just stepped out by faith. That's why Hebrews 11 is about faith, and it's about heroes. And you can be a hero today as you step out in God and say, I'm going to go, Lord. I don't know what it entails. I don't know what it's going to cost me, but I'm going to go and trust you. I don't know what I'm going to have to leave behind or sacrifice, but it's worth it. Jesus, you're worth it. Guys, I hope you're inspired by this message today. Just to let you know, I actually wrote a rap song on this very notion, on this very thing. And the whole album, the 4-track album, was called Go. In fact, here's a copy. Here we go. There it is, Go. 4 tracks, and the first song is called Go. And it's all about going into the harvest field, going into what God has called us into. I've actually got a few copies left, and if you want a copy, guys, I'll put a link below, and I'm going to say any gift of any size, okay, I'll send you one of these. Just put your name and address in the PayPal payment section, and I'll send you one of those. They are rap songs. I believe they're anointed. Everyone that's received one's really been blessed by them. And as I say, I've only got a few left, so I'm not sure if I'm going to order more or not. But guys, whatever it is, whatever's going on in your life, it's time to go. Trust God and go in his power and grace, and he will go with you. Bless you guys. Watch out for the next video, and I'll speak to you soon.